Okay. All right, so I just started the recording, and I just wanted to kind of like just to take a moment just to thank Doctors Day and Dr. Reilly. So they're on the call, and they'll be leading us through our healthy hearing, which is going to be taking place virtually, obviously. And we're just really, really lucky to have you guys. Thank you so much for just telling us about how to stay healthy with our ears. And yes, we're going to make the recording available to everybody else so they can kind of join in later, even if they can't join in tonight. So I think that it's safe for me to stop talking and just to pass the mic off to you guys. So you guys have a wonderful presentation. I'm going to start muting myself so we can hear more of it. All right, take it away.
Okay, well, Crystal and Sarah, thank you guys for popping on. A little bit about us before we get started. We are both audiologists. So essentially what an audiologist is a hearing doctor. So we specialize in hearing and being able to diagnose a hearing disorder and also treat disorders. Brittany, is there anything else you want to add about what you do?
I primarily work with pediatric patients, so I see lots of children that need their hearing tested. And then Caitlin, you work with more everybody, right?
Yeah, so we actually used to work together, and then I recently took a job this past year. So I work for a hearing aid company, actually. So I go around and speak with other audiologists and advise them how to use our hearing aids so they can treat their patients the best. So today we're just going to talking about how to keep your hearing healthy, looking for signs of hearing loss, and if you are having hearing concerns, what those might be. But before we get started, I want to ask you guys what healthy hearing means to you. So, just a few words when you hear healthy hearing, if you've ever done a healthy hearing event, when you hear healthy hearing, what does that mean to you guys, Crystal and Sarah?
Well, healthy hearing means someone can listen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great point. Perfect. Yeah, I love that answer. So, to be able to hear others around you, to be able to listen and have awareness of your environment. And hearing is important for lots of reasons to connect with other people in your world. Hearing is important to be aware of different sounds around you, especially if you're in an environment that might not be very safe. Is someone behind you, in front of you? Is there cars? Is there all sorts of different sounds that are important to be aware of to keep ourselves safe and then, of course, aware in our environment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Brittany, I'll let you take it away.
Sure. So what exactly is hearing loss? And I think you kind of touched on that when you said that healthy hearing is being able to listen or hear. So a hearing loss means that it's harder to hear or not being able to hear at all. And I think some people think that hearing is all or none. Either you can hear or you can't hear. But there are lots of different types of hearing loss. So you can hear most everything, but maybe soft sounds are hard to hear. Or sometimes you barely hear anything and you can only hear very, very loud sounds. And there's also different sounds. So sometimes you can hear booming male voices, but it's harder to hear maybe women's voices or children's voices. So there are lots of different types of hearing loss.
So, when could hearing loss happen? When does hearing loss happen? Hearing loss can happen all of us. Excuse me, that's something in my throat. Hearing loss can happen certainly like all at once, all of a sudden. It could just be as quick as that. So sometimes when we experience a sudden loss, it can be because we're not, our ears aren't very healthy. Maybe we're not feeling good. Sometimes when we experience a sudden loss, it could be because we heard a really loud noise and it did some temporary or permanent damage to our ears. Or hearing loss can occur slow over time. And this is the harder type of hearing loss to really know when it's happening because it happens extremely slowly, maybe over a course of a few years. And by the time it gets to a point that you are seeing you're having hearing problems, is when you would probably come in to see an audiologist.
So how long does hearing loss last? So that can be very different for different people. So like Caitlin was saying, sometimes you can have pain in your ears or be sick, and that can be more of a temporary hearing loss. So you get treatment or help from your doctor and your hearing gets better. But sometimes it can last for a very long time or forever. So especially if you have that gradual hearing loss, we'll see that hearing will get worse and worse and worse and worse and might not get better. Or if you experience some sort of trauma, like a loud noise, sometimes that can make your hearing go away and not come back.
So I have a little video to show you guys, and this is a tour of the ear. Can you hear that sound, Crystal?
Not yet.
Let me see if I can share audio on here. Hold, please. Let's see, share. Share sound, got it. Okay.
The ears collect sounds and turn them into messages for the brain to interpret. They also send information about balance to the brain. 3 sections of the ear work together to make this happen. They are the outer ear, the middle ear, and the inner ear. The outer ear is made up of the pinna and the ear canal. These parts gather sounds from the environment and funnel them into the middle ear. The middle ear takes these sounds and turns them into vibrations. Sounds that come into the middle ear hit the eardrum, causing it to move. The eustachian tube helps the eardrum to work well by keeping the air pressure balanced on both sides. When the eardrum moves, it makes 3 small bones called ossicles vibrate. The vibrations are then sent to the inner ear. The inner ear receives vibrations and changes them into messages that go to the brain. These messages are called nerve signals. The inner ear is made up of the cochlea and the vestibule, which includes the semicircular canals. The cochlea has fluid in it that moves like a wave. This happens when vibrations come in from the middle ear. The moving fluid causes hair cells to make nerve signals about sound. Semicircular canals also use moving fluid to create nerve signals that help with balance. Then, the signals from the cochlea travel along the auditory nerve. Signals from the semicircular canals go along the vestibular nerve. These 2 nerves come together and lead to the brain. There, the brain decodes the signals to get information about sound and balance.
So that was a ton of information in that video. But as you guys can see, the ears are really complex. So there's all different parts of the ear, and our jobs as hearing doctors is to figure out if you do have a hearing problem, where in the ear you're having that problem. Because if it's in the middle part of the ear or the outer part of the ear, we would treat it very differently as if it was in that more inner part of the ear. So you don't have to know any of that other information. I think that's just good to kind of see. But the whole reason I showed you this video is to know that the ear is really complex and there could be a few different areas where you could potentially have a problem.
All right, so what causes hearing loss? So there can be lots of different things that cause hearing loss. So you can have wax in your ears, and everybody has wax. Wax is normal. We hear very often people will apologize when they come to see us and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, my ears are dirty, they have wax in them." But wax is actually a really healthy and good thing. It helps to clean your ears and to make sure that sound can get down in there like it's supposed to. But sometimes wax doesn't move on out of the ear like it's supposed to. It gets stuck in there and it keeps the sound from getting in. So when that happens, it's important to see your doctor to have your ears cleaned. And some people produce a very little amount of wax and some people produce a lot of wax. I have 3 kids and one of my kids is very waxy, and I don't know why he's different than the other 2, but he is.
One of the other reasons you could experience hearing loss is an ear infection. Have either of you ever had an ear infection before?
I have. Sarah really didn't have any though.
Yeah. And how did you feel when you had an ear infection?
It was really hot and kind of throbbing.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good. Yeah, it does not feel good. So if you have an ear infection, that occurs in that part of the ear that's in the middle. And that's, of course, something we're able to treat. But ear infections are just a bunch of fluid and infection hanging out in the ear. So, of course, if there's fluid and infection hanging out the ear, it makes it harder for sounds to get through that to get to where they need to go up to the brain.
And this is kind of what Caitlin was just talking about. Whenever you have an ear infection, it's usually because there's fluid behind your eardrum. So just like she said, when that fluid is sitting in there, the eardrum can't vibrate or move like it's supposed to be able to send the sound to the brain. And so it can make things sound much quieter than they normally would. You can also have fluid in your outer ear too. If you've ever gone swimming and you get out and you feel that tickle in your ear and it's hard to get it out of there, you can have that in the outer part of your ear. You can also get other things in your ear canal. And whenever you work with kids, you get to see lots of fun things that end up in ear canals.
Okay, so one of the other reasons you can have a temporary hearing loss is allergies. And we live in Tennessee, and there's tons of allergies here. So certain times of the ear, you might have pressure in your ears or build up fluid, just like we talked about. And all of those things can cause a temporary hearing problem. Often, if you give a big yawn, like if you've ever experienced going up in an airplane and having your ears kind of clog, that is the same, where you can yawn and it can relieve some of that pressure and you can hear a little bit better. But often around this time of year, when the seasons start to change, we can see this problem too.
So another problem that can happen is if you get a hole in your eardrum. So this can happen because you have that liquid or that fluid behind the eardrum, and that pressure builds up and it has to get out somewhere, so it can cause a hole in the eardrum. Or sometimes this can happen if you have trauma, if you stick something down in your ear that's not supposed to be there. And so when you have a hole in your eardrum, that eardrum can't vibrate the way that it's supposed to. So the same thing is that it makes the sound softer. And the holes in the eardrum sometimes can heal on their own, or sometimes they need surgery to help them close up.
Okay, Sarah, tell me, have you ever been listening to music, or have you ever gone to a concert and then after you hear like a ringing in your ears?
Well, I haven't even had my own concert. It's fun.
So
What do you do when it's too loud?
Use the headphones.
yes, and put your hands over your ears and something's loud. And that's a great thing to do because you're protecting your hearing. If you ever go somewhere where it's too loud, often you can walk away and have some temporary or long-term damage to your ears. And you can hear a ringing in your ears, or it can sound like you're all stuffed up and you can't hear very well. So I love your answer because that's important, to cover your ears and to really make them comfortable, so you don't have that.
And then we get hearing loss just from getting older. So if you think about it, you've been using your ears for a very, very long time, and you've been around loud sounds, or maybe you've been sick. And so all of those different things over time make your hearing not quite as good as it was whenever you were younger. And so most people have some degree of hearing loss whenever they get older, but it does seem to affect some people more than others. And there are lots of reasons for that. That can be the job that you've worked. That can be your health if you've had sicknesses or if you've had ear infections that haven't been treated. So there are lots of different reasons why your hearing can change as you get older.
And just to let you guys know that Alex was able to join us. So thank you for joining, Alex. Glad you got the link.
Good.
Hey, Alex. You can come sweep the ice next if you'd like.
Oh, you want the chair? Oh, sorry. Oh, okay.
Okay, so I have a little quiz for you. And Alex, I don't know how long you were here, so you can help answer if you know. But look at these answers. So which of the following can cause hearing loss? Is it fluid in the ears? Is it exposure to sounds that are very loud? Is it getting older? Is it allergies? Is it earwax? Or is it all of these things could cause hearing loss? What do you guys think?
All of these.
What do you think, Alex?
All the above.
Yeah, you guys are both right. You're great
Okay.
listeners.
All right. So what are some signs of hearing loss? How do you know if you're not hearing as well as you used to be? So one big thing is whenever your mom is talking to you and you can't really hear her very well, or maybe you're choosing not to hear her very well. But normally the first thing that people notice whenever they're having a hard time hearing is that other people sound like they're not talking very clearly. Maybe they're mumbling or they're talking very, very quietly. So first thing you want to find out is it the way that they're talking, or is it my ears maybe that aren't hearing things the way that they're supposed to?
One of the other things that kind of goes with what we just talked about is not being able to hear clearly if there's lots of noise in the background. Now, all of us, even if our hearing is normal, have trouble listening in noise. I'm sure you guys have had an experience where you're in a room where there's lots of people talking and you're having a hard time hearing the person that you're trying to talk to. That's normal. But if you notice that it's even harder than it usually is, that could be a sign that you have some hearing problems.
So like I was mentioning before, sometimes it sounds like people are mumbling whenever they talk. And so one of the first things that we do whenever we're testing your hearing is to see how well you can understand the words that we are saying. So we might give you a whole list of words, and one of those words might be bat. But to you, you hear cat. And so that helps us to know if there's something going on with your ears or not.
Also, if you have trouble hearing your coaches or your teammates, when you're playing sports, there's lots of things going on. Sometimes you're outside, sometimes you're inside of a gym and there's lots of noise. There's people cheering for you. So if you're having trouble hearing your coaches or your teammates, that could also be a sign that we might have to test your hearing.
If you feel like you're always having to turn up the volume on your TV or on your music, that can also be another sign. And kind of a rule to think about, I know that Airpods or earphones are very, very popular, especially whenever you're at sporting events and you're in between games and you're just sitting and kind of trying to relax a little bit when listen to some music. And if other people can hear the sounds, the music that's coming out of your AirPods, then it's probably too loud. So this might be something that you want to talk to your family about and ask them, do I turn up the volume on the TV, or can you hear my music while I'm listening to it? Because if so, that might be a reason that you need to have your hearing checked.
Another sign is if you feel tired a lot. Now, again, I'm tired right now, but that doesn't mean I have a hearing problem. But if you're consistently tired, it could mean that you're spending so much energy throughout the day trying to hear other people that at the end of the day, you just feel exhausted. So if you're more tired than usual because you're straining to hear others, that could be a sign to test your hearing.
Interesting.
If you have pain in your ears, or if you notice something coming out of your ears, that might also be a sign that something is going on. When our ears are working like they're supposed to be, you shouldn't really even notice that they're there. So if you are hurting or something doesn't feel right, that's something that needs to be checked. Also, whenever our ears are working like they're supposed to, there really shouldn't be anything coming out of them. So if you notice fluid, even if it's clear, or if you notice that it has a color to it, that would be a reason that we would want to have your ears checked.
How about any noises in your ears, like ringing or buzzing? Sometimes we can hear a ringing or buzzing every once in a while in our ear. And every once in a while, that's probably normal. But if it's consistent, if it's really it's really bothering you at home, or it makes it so you can't concentrate on things, this is something that we should check out to make sure that your hearing is normal and there isn't any damage.
So the ear helps you to hear, but you also have parts of your ear that help you with your balance. So those two things work very, very closely together. And so if you ever feel like you're off balance or like you've been spinning around in a chair and you know that wobbly feeling that you get after, if you have those symptoms and you haven't been spinning around like crazy, then that would be a reason that you'd want to have your ears and your hearing checked. Because oftentimes, if you're showing signs of being off balance, that can also mean that there's something going on with your hearing.
Or all of a sudden, you might have trouble hearing in one or both of your ears. So if you have any of those signs we talked about earlier, where all of a sudden it's hard to hear a noise, it's hard to hear your teammates, it's hard to hear your parents, it's hard to hear your friends in one or in both of your ears, that's when you should probably get your hearing tested. Okay, so go ahead, Brittany, you can do this.
No, you're fine, go ahead. Yeah.
So we have a little quiz for you guys again. So our friend Amy has had some trouble hearing others for quite some time. She has pain in her right ear and sometimes has some drainage. So that's what we just talked about, having stuff come out of their ear. What should Amy do? Should Amy go visit her doctor and get her hearing tested? Should Amy wait until the pain goes away and then get her hearing tested? Or do nothing at all? Ear infections usually do not last a long time. What do you guys think?
And visit her doctor and get her hearing tested.
I love that answer. What do you think, Alex?
What now?
If you had to answer this question, do you see this question up on the board? So Amy's had some trouble hearing others. She has pain in her ear. What should she do?
I would say A.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you guys are both on the right page. I think she needs to go visit her doctor and get her hearing tested, because if she does have an ear infection, that's something that she'll need a treatment for. And that's what we're going to talk about moving into the next part.
All right, so just like Caitlin said, if you have any of those signs, if you're having a hard time hearing, if you have pain in your ears, if you feel like you're off balance or dizzy, if you're hearing ringing or sounds in your ears that aren't supposed to be there, then you definitely want to tell someone. So tell your parents or your coach or your teammate or someone that can help you get to see a doctor to have the health of your ears checked and potentially your hearing checked as well. And it's so important to do it just as soon as you notice those problems, so that if you do need treatment, we can start it as soon as we know that there is a problem. And so now we're just going to talk about what are some of the ways, what are some of those helps for your ears.
So there's lots of different treatments for hearing loss, and we're going to cover a few of those. One of the first things we can treat are things like earwax. So we talked about earlier that if you have a lot of earwax in your ear, it can block your ear canal. So they do make some drops in the store, and there is a brand up there on the screen, but there's all sorts of different drops that you can just put in your ear, and it's just to really soften that earwax so it will come out of your ear a little easier.
So something else that you might need is medicine. So if your doctor determines that you have a true ear infection in your ear and it's not just wax, then sometimes medicine is needed to be able to get rid of that infection so that the swelling can go down in your ear and that fluid can drain like it's supposed to.
One of the other things that does not help is Q-tips. So over and over and over, we hear people say, I use Q-tips. And we're telling you, stop using Q-tips. What can happen is you can push, if you have any wax in your ear, the Q-tips are too big for your ear and they actually push that wax back even further. So you can cause more problems with the wax. And sometimes even those little drops can't help if you push that wax too far back. So if you ever need your ears cleaned out, go to the doctor. Do not use Q-tips.
So you may know somebody that has hearing aids or a cochlear implant, and the job of those devices is to help someone who does have hearing loss hear better. So hearing aids are not one size fits all. There are lots of different types out there, different brands, different powers, and it depends upon what your hearing looks like to determine what type of hearing aid you need. So sometimes you need a big one, sometimes you can have a small one that fits in your ear, but their purpose is really just to make sounds more clear, more audible. So what that means is where you're not hearing well, to turn up the volume to a level that you can hear well so that your brain can use that information. So the most common type of hearing aid that you've probably seen is one that goes over the top of the ear and sits behind. Sometimes you may also see cochlear implants. So they look like a hearing aid, but they also have a piece that sticks to the head. And those two different types of devices help us to hear in different ways. And so your audiologist and your ENT, ear, nose, and throat doctor can help you to determine which type of device might be best for the hearing loss that you have.
So the question you're probably wondering is, can hearing loss improve? Can it get better? And the answer is, it depends. So depending on what was the cause of your hearing loss, sometimes with things like drops, with things like going to the doctor, we can see an improvement in hearing. However, sometimes hearing loss is more long term and we do not see it get better over time. So that's when we would use a hearing aid or a cochlear implant to make sure you are able to hear the sounds around you.
And so like Caitlin said, some hearing loss lasts for the rest of your life. And so at that point, it's very, very important for you to have an audiologist that you see regularly so that your hearing can be tested and tracked. And so that if you're seeing those changes, that the audiologist can help you, give you recommendations to hear your very best. It's also important to see your doctor so that they can help to determine if you have ear infections or any other medical treatment that might be necessary to help with your hearing.
So before we get to the next part of what we're going to do today, we want to stop here and ask you guys both, what did you learn today? What do you guys think? It's
Well,
okay if you knew everything. That's fine too. You can say that.
I learned to make my earwax into my ear. Sometimes I have terrible have an earache. That's why I visit the doctor. They're hearing testing.
Yeah,
You learned about earwax and that affects your hearing and that a doctor can help with that, right?
Yes.
Very good.
That's a great point, Sarah. And how about you, Alex? What did you learn?
About not using Q-tips.
I'm glad you learned that.
Usually I use them, but I've been having feelings that I don't need to be using that anymore. So So from this point, this point forward, I want to at least do that again.
We're happy to hear that. Yeah, and if you ever need your ears cleaned out, just come see one of us.
How? Like, do you have like some sort of context, like email?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So yeah, you can see an audiologist. You can see your you can go and see your an ENT. You can see the doctor that you normally see. Lots of different people can clean your ears out.
So I know for this next section, we have a poll. So I know we also have slides that go individually for these as well. Should we just close out the slides for now and everybody can finish the polls on their own? Does that sound
Sure.
okay? Yes, so I'm gonna launch the poll right now. So if I could have you two, Sarah and Alex, just go through the questions. Just real quick, we'll give you a moment to do that. Yeah. So thanks so much for coming. I know this is an intimate group, but I don't know. I think there's been an issue with Eventbrite because I'm getting a couple messages in and I'm glad that we're recording this so at least we can share with others.
Not sure.
Okay, looks like I got one response. Was that you, Sarah, who just finished that?
Yeah.
Just
Yay!
finished.
So I'm going to end the poll. All right. So I'm going to close that out. Thank you so much for sharing those, sharing that information, you guys. That will just help us if know if we need to contact you based on your answers. If it'd be good to see somebody about your hearing. Okay, so I think since we're done with that poll, Brittany, Caitlin, I think there's like a few more slides that were left in that deck. So
Yes. Let me skip through. These are all the questions you just answered. Okay, so we just wanted to end today with giving you some advice as you move forward. So let's go back to healthy hearing that we talked about earlier. What does healthy hearing mean to us? And healthy hearing means that every year you should head to the doctor to have your ear checked for wax. If you wear hearing aids, it could be that you have to have your ears cleaned out more because people who wear hearing aids can accumulate more wax. Or if you're just one of those people that has extra wax in their ears, you also might have to go more than once too. Oh, am I sharing my screen? Can you see that?
No.
Oh, hold on, everyone.
But what you were saying made a lot of sense even without the slide. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay. And then let me get to the right slide here.
Go ahead and
Yeah,
start.
looks like we covered a lot.
We did, yes. Okay.
There we go.
Brittany.
So it is important to have regular checkups with your ears, even if you don't think that you have any problems with your hearing. It's just like you would do for your eyes to have regular checkups, or to go see your doctor to make sure your heart's working like it's supposed to. And so we would recommend that if you're younger than 18, about every 3 years, you have your hearing checked. Whenever you're an adult, probably about every 5 years. And then whenever you're older, where we would expect that maybe you will have some hearing loss just due to your age and your life experiences, then we would recommend going back to about every 3 years. And of course, this is if you feel like there are no problems. So that's just if everything is healthy and working like it's supposed to. But of course, if you have any concerns about the way you're hearing, or if you have pain in your ears, then it's really important to have that done very soon, right away.
And if you have hearing aids, this is important to be checked by your audiologist or your ENT every year. I don't think do either of you wear hearing aids?
Mm-mm.
Okay, good. Well, that is all the information we have for you guys today. Do either of you have any questions about your own hearing or anything we covered today?
Will you guys be sharing this information, since now you're experts with your friends, your teammates, your coaches? Can I count on you guys to do that?
Tell everybody not
Yeah.
to.
I see some head nods, so I'm going to be following up with you guys just to make sure. I'm kidding, but I just want to if you guys have any questions, just let us know. I'm just going to start kind of, wrapping things up, because I think we made it through record time. We had a lot of slides, but since this is a really intimate group, I think that really helped get us through. So thanks again, Brittany. Thanks again, Caitlin, for spending time with us today. I just suspect that just people are so zoomed out that it's just one more meeting at the end of the day. It's just a real challenge. So thank you so much for hanging out with us anyway. Like I said, I'm going to be sharing this on our socials. So Crystal and Alex, if you guys can can share them across our channels as well, that'd be great. And then I just, look forward to the next time we can do this all in person, because that's where all the magic happens. So I can't wait for that.
Yes, we can't wait to see you guys in person.
Yes.
At the tournaments.
Well, I am gonna say it's the end of the session, and we are so close to the weekend. We are almost there. So have a wonderful evening, have a wonderful day tomorrow, and have a wonderful upcoming weekend. And spring break is happening very soon. So if you guys have any fun plans for that, let me know. We're not doing anything, so I'm gonna have to live vicariously through everybody else. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks for coming.
All right.